Hey, what's going on, everybody? Samuel Akem here, and I'm back with another one. I appreciate you guys for tapping into another Akem'S analysis. We had a really big week one, and I cannot wait to talk about it. But first, Big Sky Football builds legends, and so do we. At L&M Fine Jewelry, we help Montana couples create unforgettable moments, from championship-worthy diamonds to custom pieces that tell your story. This season, make your legacy sparkle. Located on American Way in Missoula or on Main Street in Kalispell. L&M Fine Jewelry, the official jeweler of Akem'S analysis. I want you guys all to go check them out. If you're looking to buy that ring for that special person, please go check out L&M Fine Jewelry. They do an amazing job. They have a beautiful diamond selection. I mean, they do everything. They take care of their customers. I promise you they will. They took care of me and my wife. So go check them out whenever you're looking to buy that ring for that special person. Week one in college football is officially over, and we have a lot of games to look at. Biggest of the weekend was South Dakota State versus Sac State. We will definitely be talking about that. Montana State versus Oregon. They got boat raced, but obviously Oregon is one of the best teams in the country, so that was to be expected. We have some takeaways, a few takeaways. It's kind of hard to judge Montana State right now. We'll get a much better judgment on Montana State after this weekend when they play South Dakota State at home. UC Davis had their first test for the young Caden Pennick at Utah in St. George, Utah against Utah Tech. Utah Tech gave them absolutely everything they could handle, but there's a few things that they didn't do very successfully that led to the L there for them. We will definitely talk about that game. Idaho, new quarterback Joshua Wood almost got a victory in Pullman. They did not get the job done. Obviously, that team is Jimmy Rogers and a lot of those former South Dakota State players. Tucker Large, one of those guys. But we will get into that game as well. There's some good things Joshua Wood did, but there's some other not so great things that Joshua Wood didn't do as well. So we'll get into all of that. Southern Utah, Idaho State, we'll talk about that. Incarnate Word, Eastern Washington, we'll talk about those. Make sure you guys hit the like. Make sure you guys leave me a comment down below. Make sure you guys let me know your thoughts about this video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel as always, and we will get straight into it. Okay, first things first, Montana State at Oregon. One of the biggest things about this game that I was excited about, I think we got to get a good look at Justin Lampson, the new quarterback. He went 23 for 31, 198 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. But one thing I did like how they did, I don't know if this was just Justin Lampson or if this was the offensive coordinator or if it, feed Taco Dowler. 12 receptions, 170 yards, no touchdowns for Dowler. Obviously, their only touchdown was a short run from Adam Jones, about a 2 or 3 yard rushing touchdown. They only put up 13 points, so they only have one touchdown, 2 field goals. That is what it is. I mean, I don't think anybody was coming into this game expecting that Montana State was going to beat up on Oregon, or even that Montana State was going to win. I think at most you hope for it to be competitive, which it really wasn't. I mean, you could see right off the bat, Montana State up front in the front seven on the offensive line and defensive line is one of the best teams in the country, and Oregon absolutely made them look like they couldn't compete at all. Now, Oregon has some freakish guys on their team. I mean, when you look at the defensive tackle, Washington, I think he was like number 4 on the freaks list, and you can just tell right away. He watches film. He's a very good player. He's physical. He's fast. He's strong. I mean, everything you want in a defensive tackle, Washington showed on film. I mean, the way he was counteracting the zone scheme that Montana State runs and getting into those gaps, knowing that, if we're running zone to the right from an offensive perspective, that offensive line is obviously gradually going to work to the right. You want that running back to find the cutback lane and hit it up. Washington seems like he understood that as well, so he must have been watching film, understood what plays would be coming. When they're running zone to the right, Washington's in the 3-tech. Maybe sometimes he's at a nose. I think a lot of times he was at the 3-tech. He's coming to the backside and shooting the gap, immediately, and making the plays. He played really well. I think Justin Lampson looked good, for what they were able to do in this game. Almost having 200 passing yards, 23 for 31, very accurate. I mean, he played a good game. Taco Dowler, obviously. I mean, a couple of takeaways I took from this game. Justin Lampson is definitely more of a pocket passer. As I had said early on in the offseason, it didn't really seem like he was going to be that Tommy S quarterback. Now, I think when you look at his numbers from when he had played, I think a lot of his numbers were rushing stats, but I don't think that's what he does. I think he's a pocket passer, and I'm interested to see how that works out for this Montana State offense. I think one thing that made them so dangerous in the past was the fact that Tommy could run. Now that you have a more stationary quarterback who's meant to stand in the pocket, I think you get to use your receivers a lot more. I don't know how that'll affect the run game, because when you don't have to account for the quarterback in the run game, I think that changes things as well. I think that changes linebackers angles, that changes defensive ends, that changes how you're coaching your team up in the week leading up to playing Montana State. So I'll be very interested to see what they look like against South Dakota State. Up front, it's another thing about this is, like I've been saying, it's going to be so hard to get a real good judgment on who Montana State is just based on this game, because up front, they're completely outmatched. You're not really getting to see them do things successfully or really be I'm trying to use the right word. You're not really getting to see a good look at their offense because they're getting beat up so much up front, because the defensive line is in the backfield so fast. I mean, I don't think this is a good judgment of who Montana State is. Now, they did some good things. Taco Dowler, the run game, they had 46 rushing yards in the run game. If that isn't an example of what they were up against in this game, I don't think anything is going to tell you that. I mean, right there. Now, I don't know. I didn't want to hang on to this Montana State game too long, because I know we are going to get a really, really good game out of them this week. Not that, I expect Montana State and South Dakota State both to play well, but we're getting a better judgment of where they stand in the FCS landscape this week, opposed to as we did this past weekend. When you're playing Oregon, the number one team in the country, I don't know if you should expect to see anything other than domination from the Oregon standpoint of things. But, in rare occasions like the Tarletons and the Austin Peay's and the Montanas, you can beat an FBS opponent, but everybody's not built like that. So I understand from the Montana State standpoint of things. But I like Justin Lamson. I'm very interested. My main points are I'm interested to see how that offense looks throughout the course of the season, given that he's more of a stationary passer. Now, somebody online did mention that maybe that's what Montana State has needed is a pocket passer. Maybe that's what's going to take them to the next level. I would say maybe, but I think one of the things that made that offense so dangerous was the fact that you had a runner and a passer in the backfield. More of a runner, but a runner and a passer. Now, also, with having more of a stationary pocket passer, one thing I think you do need, if you are going to have more of a stationary pocket passer, is you need receivers. Taco Dowler, 12 receptions, 170 yards. Rocky Lencioni, 4 receptions, 39 yards. Chris Long, 2 receptions, 27 yards. Like, if you're going to be more of a pocket passer, you need more elite receivers to get open for you. Now, do they have that? I don't necessarily know. I really only know too much about Taco Dowler. I don't know Rocky Lencioni. Chris Long, I believe, is he a North Dakota State transfer? The reason I asked that last week, and thank you somebody for letting me know that he is a transfer, was he at North Dakota State this past season? Because I think I remember seeing his name at North Dakota State. But with that, I don't know too much about the receivers, so I'll reserve judgment until I see what the receivers look like. But if you are expecting him to be more of a pocket passer, that's where it needs to show up. On the defensive side of things, Camden Dowler, 10 total tackles in his first game back, had been dealing with injuries the last few years of his career. Now he had 7 solo, 10 total tackles. Jace McMillan, 8 total tackles, 5 solo. Cole Taylor, 7 total tackles, 5 solo. And then Taden Gray at 5 with 1 solo tackle. I don't know. I'm going to really get off this game at this point. I'm excited to see what Montana State looks against South Dakota State. I don't think the thing is I don't think Montana looked terrible. Now, Oregon looked really good. Obviously, how you expect a top-ranked team in the country to look. You want them to look buttoned up. You want them to run their scheme efficiently. I think Oregon did that. Montana State had a few mistakes, had some pre-snap penalties and things like that. Like, let's look at the penalty yardage. Montana State had 7 for 54. Oregon had 3 for 29. So just right there, when you look at the penalties, not only are you playing a team that's significantly better than you, but also you're helping them out in terms of giving them free yardage, pre-snap penalties, administrative penalties, things like that. If you look at the time of possession, 29-55 and 30-08. Now, obviously, that that doesn't tell the whole story, because when you look at the score, obviously, you can tell that Oregon was probably moving down the field more efficiently. Montana State probably got the ball more times than them, so in turn, they end up having almost as equal time of possession as Oregon. All in all, I don't think we gained too much about Montana State in this week. I really want to reserve my judgment until we get to see them in week 2 against South Dakota State. Probably the game of the week in FCS. Number 2 versus number 3. Got to be the game of the week in FCS football. I will drop my preview about that game and the other games in the FCS some of the other games in the Big Sky and other games in the FCS on Thursday. So be on the lookout for that preview show. But Montana State falls to Oregon 59-13. Give me you guys' thoughts down below. What did you guys think? What did you guys like about what you saw? I like Justin Lamson. I like Taco Dowler. The defense looks, I mean, we can't, and that's the thing, is I don't want to say too much because offensively I liked what I saw. I don't want to be on their defense too hard because I think that's not a good judgment of any piece of their team. So I'm going to reserve judgment on the defense until I see them against South Dakota State. You guys let me know in the comments what you thought about this game. Leave me all your thoughts down below, and I will move on. Okay, the game of the week in FCS football, it was Sac State versus South Dakota State, and man, it was not a pretty look for Sac State. And one of the reasons I'm going to say it wasn't a pretty look for Sac State is just because of all the noise they've made this offseason. Also, I mean, their offense looked anemic, man. 20-3 ball game, and South Dakota State honestly did not play a very, very clean game. First downs, first off, Sac State had 7 first downs. South Dakota State had 28. 2 for 13 on third down for Sac State. 5 for 15 on third down for South Dakota State. 0 for 4 on first down for Sac State. 2 for 3 on fourth down for South Dakota State. Total yards, 131 for Sac State. 445 for South Dakota State. Passing, 107 for Sac State. 190 for South Dakota State. Something to pay attention to. Completion percentage was crazy low for Sac State. Sac State was under 50% completion percentage in their passes. Jaden Rashada was 11 for 27 passing. Let's just do the math on that real quick. 40% completion percentage. You can't win that way. 100%. Interceptions thrown, 1. Turnovers, you're not going to win the game. 2 turnovers for each. Sac State had a fumble and an interception. South Dakota State on the other end of things had 2 fumbles. 9 penalties for 66 yards, 5 penalties for 50 yards. Time of possession. I mean, time of possession. 41 minutes of time of possession for South Dakota State. 18, almost 19 minutes of time of possession for Sac State. That, you can't win that way. You won't win that way. You will not win that way. I mean, and then if we just go to the pure statistics, rushing, gross rushing yards, Sac State had 24. Now, obviously, we're not getting the net because there was some sacks in there that you got to take into account. But 24 rushing yards on the statistics, opposed to 255 for South Dakota State. I mean, full stop right there. Let's get off the numbers for a second. Let's just talk about, first things first, if we want to be very real about this game, Sac State had, I think, 6-7 sacks in this game. And when you look at it from just like evaluating this entire team standpoint, that is a really good sack number for Sac State. Although they weren't successful in stopping the Sac State offense 100%, although they didn't look 100% clean offensively, I think Sac State's defense played a good enough game to win this game. Now, I know what people are saying, like Sac State talked all this about the go-go offense. It's not about the defense for Sac State. It's about the offense. The go-go offense has been getting all the noise. I've been talking about the go-go offense. I think it's a very complex, interesting offense. It perks my interest for sure. And I'm very interested to see in a bigger sample size what it looks like. Obviously, it's shown to be successful at William & Mary, Howard, at the high school ranks, at UNLV. I mean, Brennan Marion has taken this offense to multiple locations, and it's been successful. So I think we need to hold off on trying to say that this offense is dog crap until we see a bigger sample size. Now, from what we saw on Saturday, it's not very convincing. And one of the things that I think leads to that, and it's kind of similar to what I say with the Montana State offense. If you've heard me talk about the Montana State offense, I think one of the things that's made it so lethal in the last few years with Tommy Mellott under center was the fact that Tommy Mellott could run. And given that aspect of that offense, you couldn't fully commit to the running back. You could never fully commit to the quarterback because whether Tommy keeps it or he's giving it to Adam Jones, it's going to be a play that's going to gash you. And you have to pay attention to both. So I think that added a facet to that defense that to that offense and Montana State standpoint that really helped them out. With Sac State, that is another piece of this offense. It's a triple option scheme where you can hand it, you can pull it, and then you're in the speed option. You're in an option type scheme. A lot of that is what they do in this Sac State offense, and if at all, I don't remember Jaden Rashada pulling it too much. I don't remember him pulling it too much, and that doesn't keep the defense honest. You hear all the time when people are passing the ball a ton, if it's in a passing offense, you hear the announcers always say like, oh, they're going to get a few runs in here to keep the defense honest. What do you mean by keep the defense honest? I want the defense to understand that we are not just going to throw the ball around. We will run it every once in a while. Same with this Sac State offense. You have to keep the defense honest, and you have to make them believe that you will pull it out of the running back's belly and keep it for yourself. They didn't see you do that, so they're on the running back the whole entire game. When I see you go like this, I'm coming downhill. And whether it's a play action or you're actually handing it off, I'll either be wrong or I'll be right, but I'll be right more than I'll be wrong. Because most of the time, you're actually probably going to hand it off. That is what I kind of sensed from this offensive attack. Now, I don't know if that means you go to Cardell Williams. I don't know if that means you stick with Jaden Rashada. I don't know what things have looked like in practice, so I don't know how often he's been pulling it. I don't know if they fully expected him just to be a quarterback who's going to hand it off, and then he's going to sit in the pocket and throw the ball around. He wasn't very successful in throwing the ball around. Now, I don't know if that's because of the successfulness of the South Dakota State defense or the lack thereof accuracy. You know, on a few of the passes, I could see that Jaden Rashada was dialed with his passes, and his receivers weren't coming up with the plays. So at some point, you also have to keep your receivers accountable. But just a very, very, very ugly game for Sac State. It wasn't necessarily a clean game for South Dakota State as well. If you think about the 2 turnovers that South Dakota State had, that definitely helped Sac State out. I mean, the reason I said what I said about their defense played a good enough game for Sac State to win this game. When you give up 20 points, that is a winnable game. If you can hold a team to 20 points, your offense should be able to put up 3 scores. If you have a decent enough above average offense, any offense that's above average, better than the rest, that's above average than most offenses in FCS, you should be able to put up 3 scores in a game, or at least get 17 more points to be able to tie this game, take it to overtime. It's anybody's ball game. But I mean, the fact that you guys that Sac State only put up 3 points is just very, very concerning, man. It's very concerning. The run game is also something that's concerning because in this triple option scheme, you know, you're throwing a lot at the defense. So it's a lot of eye candy, it's a lot of misdirection, but at the end of the day, you're trying to get downhill. That is the key tenet of this offense is the downhill running game, the triple option scheme, being able to run the ball, the downfield passing game as well. Being able to run the ball was obsolete in this game. Sac State was absolutely not able to run the ball in this game, and it's very, very concerning. This is a team that was ranked 15th in the country to start the season. They were a lot of like myself included. A lot of people have been talking about this team, and this team has been ranked highly, and a lot of people have been talking about them. And you get a game like this, and it starts to make people sit back and think. I don't know. What did people jump the gun? Now, obviously, South Dakota State, I think, is better than most teams at the FCS level. We will see how that pans out next week when they play Montana State. Now, here's where the real discussion is going to be had. If Montana State goes out and boat races South Dakota State, there's going to be some very interesting conversations to be had about Sac State. Now, Montana State's a very good football team as well. Nobody's doubting that either. But I don't know. I think the brakes just need to be pumped on Sacramento State right now. I think it's got to be proven. At this point, the talk has been had, and that's really the biggest point about this, and this is where I really want to leave all of this at, is all the talk has been had about Sac State. They've been boosted up all offseason. A lot of people are very excited to see what they're able to do, but excitement is going to wane at some point, and the excitement has waned. And I was on the minority in terms of being excited about this team. Most people wanted to see what happened. They wanted to see Sac State get beat down. They wanted to see Sac State lose, and that is exactly what happened. So from Sac State's standpoint, now it's on you guys to step up and change the narrative, because at this point, everybody just thinks you're the talkers. Everybody just thinks this is the team that doesn't have what it takes. They just think they're a team that doesn't have what it takes. I personally look at this game, and although South Dakota State did not play a clean game, defensively, I think you are very close to being there in terms of having a defense that can play toe-to-toe with one of the best offenses in the country, one of the best teams in the country. I mean, you're right there. You held this team to 20 points. I don't think that's far off from where you want to be. Obviously, you would have maybe held them to a 1 less score, maybe a less field goal. But I think defensively, you're kind of there. It's really offensively, you need to bring your offense along. I mean, putting up 3 points in this game with the amount of opportunities you were given, the amount of times South Dakota State turned over the ball and put you guys in good positions with the ball, it just can't happen. It absolutely can't happen. So you guys let me know in the comments what you think down below. It'll be interesting to see how Sac State looks next week. Let's see who Sac State has coming up on their schedule this week. Sac State will play Nevada, so that'll be another interesting game for them. And then they play Mercyhurst, who a lot would assume that Sac State should beat Mercyhurst, but I'm not ready to 100% say that yet based on what we saw against South Dakota State. We will see, but Nevada is their next opponent. They played Jeff Choate and the Wolfpack, I think Nevada's mascot is. We will see what they look like there. You guys leave me a comment down below of what you guys thought about Sac State this week. I'm sure you guys thought they looked absolutely terrible, and you guys knew they would look terrible, but let me know in the comments what you think, and I will move on. Okay, the next game I would love to talk about is UC Davis versus Utah Tech, and I'm happy that this happened to UC Davis for a couple of reasons. First off, UC Davis has a young quarterback, Caden Pennick, 21 for 31, 253 yards, 3 touchdowns, an interception. The reason I'm happy that they had this game is because I think with a lot of new pieces, maybe the offensive line is returning, maybe Rex and Porter Connors are returning, but you got a new quarterback, you got a new running back, you got a lot of new receivers, you got a lot of new pieces defensively. I like that they got tested in this game. Caden Pennick played well. Jordan Fisher, 16 carries, 105 yards, and a touchdown. Samuel Batu, 4 receptions, 93 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think UC Davis is starting to carve out an identity for what they're going to look like this year. Obviously, everything starts with Caden Pennick. They have a really good running back in Jordan Fisher. They have a couple of other good running backs behind him and Mateo Perez. I think Carter Vargas can do it as well. Carter Vargas is more so of the receiving threat out of the backfield for them, in my opinion, but he can also do it. Samuel Batu is asserting himself as the number 1 receiver. I think he had 1 touchdown last week, 2 touchdowns this week. He's up to 3 touchdowns in 2 weeks. I mean, they're starting to show you who they're going to be offensively. Defensively, I think we already know who they are. My point on the defense with UC Davis is I think they're a little inconsistent right now. And, at times I think UC Davis's defense looks really, really good. And, the pieces that you expect to be flying around, Goligoski, Porter, and Rex Connors, flying around making plays as they should be. But at times also then you look and it's like, man, they're missing tackles. They're allowing this Utah Tech team to drive down the field on them. It just looks at times that they're out of sync with each other. But then at times it's like, oh my gosh, this group is just flying around. They're making plays. Where has this been the entire game? I saw it in the Mercer game with the inconsistency, and I saw it in this Utah Tech game with the inconsistency. On this other side of things as well with the offense, I mean, Caden Pennick has been inconsistent at times as well, but I think you expect that from a young quarterback. The reason I like this game for UC Davis, 1, because they won, but 2, also because they got tested. You really got to put the onus. I mean, Caden Pennick, you're down 24-7 in the third quarter. What are you going to do? Jordan Fisher, you're down 24-7 in the third quarter. What are you going to do? Samuel Batu, you're down 24-7 in the third quarter. What are you guys going to do? And they showed up and stepped up. I mean, you can say what you want about, it's Utah Tech, they should have beat them anyway, 100%. But being down on the road in a game like that can be intimidating. It can be intimidating, and you just don't know. So I was excited to see UC Davis be able to come away with that victory on the road, although it was Utah Tech. That's an upcoming Big Sky opponent next season. So, I mean, I don't know if it'll be UC Davis's opponent, but they will be in the Big Sky next season. So I was also convinced with seeing Utah Tech play good football against a good football team. I'm like, okay, they're coming to the Big Sky. Like, Utah Tech has been the doormat for the Big Sky for the last couple of years since they've been coming, since they started the transition and since they've been here. I mean, a lot of teams have stepped all over Utah Tech. So, say what you want about them. I was happy to see them be competitive in this game. Let's look at the team numbers. 21 first downs for UC Davis, 18 for Utah Tech. On third down, UC Davis was 6 for 15. Utah Tech was 7 for 16. Over 2 on fourth down for both teams. Yardage, 417 total for UC Davis, 353 total for Tech. Passing, 253 for Davis, 272 for Tech. Interceptions thrown, 1 for UC Davis, 2 for Tech. And really, that's where the difference in this game was seen. 4 turnovers for Utah Tech, 2 for UC Davis. Those turnovers, 100%. I mean, because Utah Tech led in time of possession, and they led in penalty yardage as well. UC Davis has 6 for 63 penalties. Utah Tech had 3 for 30. And, I mean, if you just look at that right there, I mean, you can't win ball games when your team is turning over the ball. And Utah Tech didn't win the ball game. For the box score, though, Jordan Fisher asserting himself as that number 1 running back. Really love to see that. Batu asserting himself as that number 1 receiver. Outside of that, I really just like the fact that Caden Pennick was put with his back behind the wall and had to show up. I think we saw a lot of the same things we saw from Caden Pennick in the Mercer game, being able to create with his legs, being able to extend plays, using his legs as a runner. I mean, all of the things that you liked in the Mercer game, you also saw in the UC Davis, in this Utah Tech game. One thing we didn't get to see in that Mercer game, though, was UC Davis finish against Mercer. Mercer started to come back. The last thing we saw was Mercer had the ball and they were down by 6. Who's to say they would have scored? They wouldn't have scored. We don't know. We never got to see. One thing I did like, though, was that UC Davis was down in this game the entire game. I mean, outside of the first quarter, UC Davis was down in this game for a majority of the game. Once they were settled in, they put their feet in the ground and said, we aren't going anywhere. We are going to win this game come hell or high water. And it was led by Caden Pennick, 3 touchdown passes, very efficient passing game, 1 interception. But, I mean, Caden Pennick started it all, and I love that. I love that. I don't have too much else to say about this game. UC Davis will play, who do they play this week? UC Davis will play Washington this Saturday in Seattle, obviously. We'll get to see what that looks like. But then coming, they get a bye the week after that, and then after that they play Southern Utah. So I'm excited to see them against Southern Utah. You guys let me know what you guys thought about this UC Davis versus Utah Tech game. I thought it was pretty convincing for Utah Tech to see them play a good Big Sky team. Play them tough. I mean, play them tough because you are going to be in the conference. Who will be in the conference starting in 2026? I don't think it's easy to say who, if anybody's going to be in the conference in 2026. I think you got to take it year to year. But Utah Tech playing tougher. That also leads to another conversation about Utah Tech playing tough. They currently are in the UAC conference. As you saw, the UAC got 2 FBS victories over the weekend. I'll have more talk on the UAC at the end of this show today. But the UAC is making a statement, and I think people need to pay attention. But you guys let me know what you guys thought about this UC Davis Utah Tech game. Very convincing victory for the Davis boys: Caden Pennick, Jordan Fisher, Samuel Batu, Tim Plow, obviously everybody. But obviously they still have things to work on. And one thing that has always been said is the biggest jump for any team is made between week 1 and week 2. I think had that happened in the Mercer game, UC Davis might have lost that game. Who knows? I mean, we never got to see the end of that Mercer game, so we don't know what UC Davis would have done in that game. But when they got their back against the wall in Utah Tech, they closed it out and got the victory. So you guys leave me a comment down below. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and I will move on. Okay, the next game I want to talk about is Idaho at Washington. The Vandals under new leadership, Coach Thomas Ford. They got a new quarterback, Joshua Wood. I mean, this game was right there for Idaho. This game was absolutely right there for Idaho. And I don't want to be hard on anybody, but there is a something that I think was missing for Idaho in this game, and it's glaring. And I think this leads us down the rabbit hole of the transfer portal and players leaving a team and all that good stuff. That is where I'm going. The fact that Idaho did not have Mark Hamper and Jordan Dwyer in this game, I think was a 100% reflection as to why they lost this game. If you put Jordan Dwyer and Mark Hamper back on this roster, Idaho will win this game. I feel very, very strongly about this. And it's not even the fact that the receivers that Idaho has can't do it. It's just the fact that, like, you had 2 all-conference. I don't know if Mark Hamper was all-conference, but you had freshman All-American and Mark Hamper and an all-conference receiver in Jordan Dwyer, first-team all-conference receiver in Jordan Dwyer. I think he was also an All-American. I mean, 2 of the best receivers in the conference were on Idaho last year. You put those receivers back on this team, they win this game. Why do I say that? 12 for 20, 33 yards passing for Joshua Wood. Now, is that necessarily an indictment against any of the receivers at Idaho? Not necessarily. Maybe Joshua Wood wasn't able to hit them. I don't know. There's a lot of things that could have went into them not being successful in the passing game. But all we know is what we know. And what we see right here is 33 passing yards for Idaho. Now, it does look like Art Williams had a reception, went back 17 yards. Emerson Cortez Minyiver also had 2 receptions for -3 yards. So you're probably looking at a net total of, I don't even know, because those minuses, I don't know. But I feel like if you had 2 of your top receivers from the 2024 season, things might have looked different. Rushing yardage, Joshua Wood, 12 carries, 101 yards. I mean, boy can use his legs. He knows how to use his legs. I don't think anybody was questioning that. I think, what a lot of people were questioning was probably what that defense was going to look like. I think we got an answer on what that defense looked like, holding Washington State to 13 points. I mean, this game was there for the taking for Idaho, man. They got to finish the job here. And I think it starts with the passing offense. I mean, 33 passing yards. I was watching this game. It was real back and forth, a lot of defense being played. Let's look at the team statistics. First down, 16 for Idaho, 13 for Washington State. 7 for 16 on third down for Idaho, 3 for 12 on third down for Washington State. 1 for 1 on fourth down for Idaho, 2 for 2 on fourth down for Washington State. 221 total yards for Idaho, 211 total yards for Washington State. Passing yards, this is the difference. I mean, 33 passing yards for Idaho, 208 for Washington State. 1.7 yards per pass for Idaho, 6.7 for Washington State. I mean, I could go penalties, 6 for 57, 7 for 48 for Washington State, 6 for 57 for Idaho. Time of possession, when you look at the numbers, Idaho led in first downs, total yardage. They were more efficient on third down. Their rushing attempts, What? So is Julian Duggar, is he receiver? Or let me actually just click on his name. He's a quarterback. So 2 quarterbacks threw passes for 208 passing yards for Washington State. Washington State had 3 rushing yards per ESPN. Voorhees had 19 rushing yards. So probably if we're looking at the net rushing yards, I don't even want to do net because I think net would be 3 rushing yards. But if you look at the gross, only the positive rushing yards, I think they had 21, but their quarterbacks got sacked. So negative 14 on 4 carries for negative 14 for Julian Duggar. And then Angel Johnson had 10 carries for negative 4 yards. So maybe Idaho's run defense is just that good. Which, I mean, also leads me back to the point that Idaho should have won this game, man. I mean, they won in every statistic. Passing, first downs, third down efficiency, rushing yards, total yards. They didn't win in passing. Not passing. Rushing, first down, third down efficiency, total yards, not penalties, but time of possession. They lost the turnover battle and they lost the passing yardage. But I mean, the running game, they were completely 188 rushing yards to 3 rushing yards. That is crazy, man. An average of 4.2 rushing yards and an average of 0.1 rushing. If anybody showed you just the statistics and they didn't show you the score of this game, you would think Idaho won this game. I cannot believe Washington State only had 3 rushing yards. My goodness. In the time of possession, but the turnovers. I mean, turnovers will kill you. But I mean, I think this is a good sign for Idaho. I know a lot of times with FCS versus FBS games, you got to kind of find the silver lining. Like, yes, they lost. Yes, they got beat up. It's the same thing we just did with the Montana State game. Like, yes, they got beat up, but like, where is the good in this game? Where did you see good things happen in this game? And that's where I'm going to hang on to is, yes, Idaho lost this game, but where is the good in this game? Well, first off, their defense played phenomenal. I mean, giving up 13 points to an FBS opponent who has more scholarships and all that good stuff, that is convincing. Where I'm concerned, the rushing is convincing for Joshua Wood, but the fact that your leading rusher in terms of runners is Elisha Cummings with 40 rushing yards and then Art Williams with 35 rushing yards, that is definitely concerning. So that would leave me to pause real quick to say, obviously, I mean, but you know, they can spy the quarterback. Your quarterback's not always going to be able to get you 100 rushing yards. You got to be able to do it with your running backs. So I would say that. Offensively, I'm concerned about Idaho right now. Defensively, I'm not so much concerned about Idaho. And this takes me back to exactly where we were a year ago at this time. Defensively, I was not really concerned about Idaho. I thought defensively they could hang in with a lot of teams. Now, obviously, when they played the better teams, their defense wasn't very successful. But against above average or average competition at the FCS level, I think Idaho was better than most defensively. And I think, honestly, that might have taken a step up this year. We'll see. It was Washington State. We will see, because Washington State's, obviously, at this point, they're kind of like a glorified FCS team with all the pieces that they brought over from South Dakota State, but they are FBS opponents, so we'll give them that. But I think defensively, I feel pretty strong about Idaho after this first game. Offensively is where I would like to see things. In the passing game for Joshua Wood, I would like to see things that take that step. And I would also like to see some receivers stand out, man. Elisha Cummings, their starting running back, is the second leading receiver. Ryan, who I think is a tight end, no, he's a receiver, is their leading receiver with 26 receiving yards on 3 receptions. So I would love to see some receivers step up. I would love to see Joshua Wood be able to complete some passes down the field. But defensively, I'm convinced. I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged by Idaho's defense. They play St. Thomas next week. And I think they get them at home. They get them in the Kibbe Dome. So we'll see what Idaho is able to do against St. Thomas out of the Pioneer League. You guys let me know what you guys thought about this Idaho game. What did you guys think about Washington State, Jimmy Rogers and Washington State? What did you guys think about some of the things that were done by Tucker Large, taking one of the players' mouthpieces? I mean, a lot of chirping going on after that game. Obviously, I don't know why that game's not played every year. I mean, the teams are right next door to each other. I mean, I think that's a game that should be on each team's schedule every year. FCS, FBS, it doesn't matter. As long as they're both D1, they should play each year. We'll see what that looks like. But you guys leave me in comments down below, and I will move on. Okay, the next game I want to talk about is Southern Utah versus Idaho State. The Bengals fall to Southern Utah, and I want to get into the team stats immediately because I think the team stats tell a big story. First downs, 19 for Idaho State, 28 for Southern Utah. 4 for 14 on third down for Idaho State, 8 for 14 on third down for Southern Utah. More efficient, 1 for 1 on fourth down for Southern Utah, 1 for 3 on fourth down for Idaho State. Total yardage, and this is always going to be the conversation when you talk about an Idaho State team. Offensively, they have the weapons. They got receivers, they got tight ends, they got running backs who can do it. They usually have a decent enough offensive line where they can move the ball. They're going to be able to put points up to a point. I think their offense can get better in the margins at times, but I think offensively, Idaho State's really good. Defensively is where the problem always lies. Total yardage, 361 for Idaho State, 563 total yards for Southern Utah. A lot of that was done on the ground as well, and that is what I mentioned coming into this game. If you remember, go back to my preview show on Thursday. I dropped talking about this game. I said, when you look at this UNLV game, Idaho State played a good game offensively. Their quarterback played decent enough. The 3 turnovers definitely hurt you, but I don't think that killed you. Where it really killed you was UNLV had 300 rushing yards. Let's go into this game. Idaho State passing 338, Southern Utah 240. Idaho State will always be able to throw the ball. Rushing for Idaho State, 23 rushing yards, 323 rushing yards for Southern Utah. One of the top rushing teams in the country in 2024. Hey, we're going to come into this game. We're just going to let them rush for 300. You will not beat them that way. You will not beat them that way. Time of possession, 37 minutes of time of possession for Southern Utah, 22 minutes of time of possession for Idaho State. I think you expect that from Idaho State. They throw the ball a ton. They're going to stop the clock a lot. Turnovers, it was 1 for 1 on turnovers, so really tied there. But Southern Utah averaged 6 yards a carry in this game on 50 rushing attempts. Not going to win that way. Idaho State also ran the ball 16 times. You gotta make a better effort to run the ball. I mean, when you look at Dason Brooks, I don't know if Dason Brooks is hurt. I don't know if he's dealing with something. I don't know. So I don't want to make assumptions that way. But Dason Brooks had 20, 30 rushing yards last week against UNLV. This week, 1 carry, -3 yards. Now, I don't know if he got hurt. If he got hurt early in the game, somebody let me know in the comments. I didn't see that. So if he's hurt, that's that. But Tyton Mason, 3 carries for 15 yards. Carson Sudbury, 4 carries, 7 yards. Brett Spencer, 7 carries, 4 yards. And Robert Freeman, 1 carry, 0 yards. So your 2 leading rushers from last week each had 1 carry. Outside of that, you gave the ball to 3 other running backs who we didn't necessarily see in week 1. Now, I don't know what they got going on over there, but that's concerning. 16 carries, 23 yards, 1.4 yards a carry, 1 touchdown. Can't do it. Michael Sulikov had a good game, 7 receptions, 115 yards, no touchdowns. But then Damian Morgan, 5 receptions, 98 yards, and a touchdown. Sion Nunley, 5 receptions, 82 yards. And then their leading receiver from last week, 5 receptions, 29 yards. So it seems like things just like, maybe they have a rotation going on. I don't know. But the leading guys from last week were at the bottom of the stat sheet this week, outside of Jordan Cook. Jordan Cook, 23 for 45, 334 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Decent game passing wise. I mean, not as many interceptions. You still threw an interception. The efficiency is not there. You're almost 50% completion percentage. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what's going on at Idaho State. Obviously, Cody Hawkins is an awesome head coach. He's an awesome offensive mind. But from the standpoint of having a successful team, it doesn't really seem to be there currently. It doesn't seem like they have all the pieces. Jordan Cook can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't know how to develop him properly, if you don't know how to put him in the right positions to be successful, I don't know what to tell you. Obviously, he's got the arm talent. Does he need to be throwing the ball 45 times a game? I don't know if that's the answer for Jordan Cook. I feel like maybe on the 20 to 30 times a game is where he sits, and you probably need to invest more in the offensive line, invest more in the running backs, and maybe invest more in running the ball. Now, schemes are what they are. Offensive coordinators are who they are. Play callers like Cody Hawkins, they do what they do, and he's been doing it longer than I am. So who am I to tell him what he needs to do? He knows his guys. He knows his weapons. That is what it is. But when you're looking at the games and you're analyzing the product on the field, you just see some glaring weaknesses. The running game is one of those. Obviously, last week we saw a different story in the run game, so maybe you could have expected it to be different this week. I don't know if that's the case. Also, the run game offensively is the problem for them. Stopping the run defensively is the problem for them. Back-to-back weeks, teams have rushed for 300 yards on them, and I think that's actually my note in here. Teams are averaging 311.5 rushing yards a game on Idaho State after 2 games. 311.5 rushing yards a game. You can't win that way. You can't win that way. Southern Utah rushed for more yardage than UNLV did. That is very, very concerning. So that is my number one key to Idaho State improving next week. Let's see what they have next week. They play New Mexico. So Idaho State going to take on Jason Eck and the Lobos, the former Idaho head coach. So going to be an interesting game out there. I believe they're probably going to New Mexico. So we'll see what that looks like. But I'm excited to see that game. Jordan Cook, not a very convincing game for the Jordan Cook truthers like myself out there. Definitely got some things to clean up. In particular, your completion percentage. You're 23 for 45. So that's just a hair over 50%. Yeah, he's 51% completion percentage. And then the run game. The run game has got to get cleaned up. The run game has got to get cleaned up. You have to be able to run the ball or you're grass. You got to be able to run the ball. And then on the other side of things, you have to be able to stop the run. I mean, defensively for Idaho State, it'd be nice if you could stop anything. And I'm not even trying to be hard on Idaho State, but this is who they've been for a while now. So they gave up 200-yard rushers. Joshua Dye, 28 carries, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. Looked like they just cycled out from the running back they had last year. Can't remember his name. Then Will Burns, 5 carries, 105 yards, and a touchdown. You can't have it. You can't have it. So they got to stop the run. We'll see if they can do that against New Mexico. New Mexico dropped a game last year against Montana State. Is Idaho State Montana State? 100% no. But New Mexico can drop games against FCS opponents. We've seen it before. Will we see it again happen this week? We will see. You guys let me know what you think about that in the comments down below, and I will move on. Okay, the final game of the weekend that we will be talking about on Akem'S analysis is Eastern Washington versus Incarnate Word. Incarnate Word didn't make their case very strong this weekend in terms of strengthening their case in the national landscape. They dropped one against Nicholls State in week 0, and then they come against Eastern Washington and they play a pretty close game throughout most of the game and pull it out by 10 in the end. But a lot of people are looking at this game and thinking, man, this doesn't make Incarnate Word look that much better, because Eastern Washington has not been a very strong team the last few years. So when you as an Incarnate Word, who's a top 5, top 10 team that a lot of people think, I don't think they are that. I think more people think they're probably within the top 20 to 25, if even in the top 20. They might be top 30, top 40. But if you are a top 10, top 15 team, you should beat up on Eastern Washington. Now, maybe Eastern Washington's better than a lot of people think. I don't think, after watching this game, I don't think you can say that. But, I mean, maybe. Richard Torres played a better game. 27 for 38, 332 passing yards, 1 touchdown. The run game, 14 carries, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns for Harlan Dixon. Timothy Carter, 18 carries, 46 yards, and a touchdown. In the receiving game, Jamison Garcia, 6 receptions, 146 yards, and a touchdown. I was kind of surprised from Incarnate standpoint. Chaden James, 8 receptions, 56 yards, no touchdowns. But where is Jalen Walthall? He didn't even have a catch. Did Jalen Walthall play? I don't even see him in the stat sheet, man. He doesn't even have a catch. On the Eastern Washington side of things, let's go to the team stats. Team statistics, first downs, Eastern had 15. Incarnate Word had 27. On third down efficiency, they were 4 for 13. Eastern was 7 for 16 for Incarnate Word. 1 for 2 on fourth down for Eastern. 2 for 2 on fourth down for Incarnate Word. 290 total yards for Eastern, 481 for Incarnate Word. So I think that does a little something to further that decent defense that Incarnate Word does have a decent defense. You know, they gave up 21 points, but from a yardage standpoint, I think they were decent. They almost gave up 300 yards, so maybe pump the brakes on the defensive talk right now. But 183 passing yards, 332 for Incarnate Word. Close to 50% completion percentage for Eastern Washington, 21 for 39, so probably a tick over 50%. 1 interception thrown, 107 rushing, 149 for Incarnate Word, 107 for Eastern Washington. So nobody was necessarily super successful in the run game. Eastern Washington did average more yards per rush than Incarnate Word. Penalties, Eastern Washington was better. Incarnate Word was 7 for 65 yards. Turnovers, Eastern had 2. Time of possession, almost 10-minute difference in favor of Incarnate Word. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think the numbers really tell too much right there. Eastern Washington standpoint, I mean, they lost their starting quarterback. I don't think Jared Taylor is necessarily that of what Kakoa Visperus was. But also, I don't think offensively they have the firepower to really compete with a lot of people. Obviously, they have some pieces. Marquise Yetz, I'm sure it probably is 7 for 63. Their leading receiver, their leading rusher, Marquise Yetz, also 6 receptions, 6 carries, 59 yards, 2 touchdowns. So it seems like they have a weapon. And then their second leading rusher was 10 carries, 35 yards, and a touchdown. Jared Taylor, their starting quarterback. They have some weapons. Seems like Yetz is going to be a weapon. Jared Taylor is obviously a weapon. We saw that last year. But outside of that, where are your number one receivers? I mean, where is your receiver that's going to show up? I think historically, a lot of people would have thought that'd be Nolan Olm. He had dealt with a nasty ankle injury last year. We'll see what he's able to do this year. But you know what Efton Chisholm was. I think he was about 25 to 30% of their offensive output in and out, maybe more. I mean, his usage rate was extremely high. He was getting the ball targeted to him early and often, and it's hard to replace that. And then in terms of Michael Wortham, an offensive weapon, it's hard to replace that as well. You got Kakoa Visperus. That means you can put Jared Taylor at other positions. That's another weapon. Now he's the number one quarterback. I mean, there's a lot that they lost at Eastern Washington, and I don't think they did a great job of being able to replace some of those weapons, and I think we're seeing that here. Incarnate Word, though, good win for them. Bounce back from that loss to Nichols. Nasty loss to Nichols. Richard Torres gets to bounce back. Some of those pieces who maybe didn't perform as well get to bounce back and show that, you know, what I did in that first game wasn't necessarily who I am. It was just a short part of the story. But I'm interested to see what they look like. Eastern Washington will return this week and play Boise State in Boise, Idaho. So we'll see what they're able to do there. Incarnate Word, on the other hand of things, I know we're talking about some of the Big Sky teams, but Incarnate Word will play University of Texas, San Antonio, UTSA this week. So we'll see there. Neither are super necessarily interesting games, but we'll see what they're able to do. You guys let me know what you guys thought about this Eastern Washington game in the comments down below. What did you think you saw from Eastern Washington? What gives you confidence about this team, and what really concerns you about this team going forward? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will move on. Okay. I want to finish off my video today talking about the UAC. We got to give the UAC its flowers. The United Athletic Conference, if you are unfamiliar with them. And, you know, I think they need a little bit more respect. Now, I think a lot of people have been giving them respect. It's probably myself who wasn't really giving them the rightful respect before last season. This season, they have my full attention. Tarleton State, 2-0 so far with the victory against Army in double overtime. Then you go to Austin Peay, who's 1-0 right now with the victory over Mississippi, Tennessee State. I don't know. MTSU. These teams with these long names. Middle Tennessee State University. That is who Austin Peay beat this weekend. They really beat up on them. 34-14. And then Tarleton obviously beat Army 30-27. Southern Utah just beat Idaho State. Now, is that good Southern Utah or bad Idaho State? I think it's a little bit of both. I think Idaho State's not very great defensively, but I think Southern Utah has been on the up and up recently anyway. Southern Utah, they beat a Big Sky opponent. And then you got West Georgia, who also won this weekend. I think they played like a D2, D3 NAIA school. But, I mean, things are looking good for the United Athletic Conference, even if you want to take it to Utah Tech. Losing to UC Davis, but playing them tough all the way through. I mean, the UAC is on the way. And a lot of people, obviously, the Missouri Valley is the best conference in FCS football. The Big Sky is right there neck and neck with them. If they're able to get more national championships, I think you're talking about a different thing. I think the Big Sky is able to supplant the Missouri Valley Football Conference, but the Missouri Valley sits at the top. Big Sky's right there. Outside of that, I think a lot of people talk about the SoCon. The CAA historically has been up there, but they've been falling the last few years. Sorry, I'm so hiccupy today. I had this breakfast in Coeur d'Alene today, and oh my gosh, it's doing some things to my internal organs right now. But you look at all the games, you look at the UAC, and you look at the rest of the landscape of FCS. The Patriot League, the Pioneer League, no scholarships, SoCon I think is there. At times, I think SoCon is there. This year, I don't think SoCon is necessarily going to be there. If you're talking about that third tier or that third FCS conference that's really there and putting teams in the discussion to be in the conversation. Now, obviously, I don't think Austin Peay necessarily is in the discussion right now. I don't think Southern Utah is necessarily in the discussion right now. But Tarleton, in terms of contender status and being in the national conversation, Tarleton is right there. And last year, they poked their head up in the conversation, making it past to the second round of the playoffs, losing to South Dakota, but made it a very, very competitive game against South Dakota. Tarleton is right there. Tarleton should be ranked in your top 5 in your poll. Tarleton should be one of the top ranked teams in the country. Tarleton should be in everybody's conversation this week. Tarleton should be getting talked about because of what they've done. Now, obviously, they beat up on a Portland State who historically is not good anyway, but then they go to Army and they win 30-27. And then that changes things. Then you start to look at their schedule. Now you want to talk about Tarleton. Now you're looking at, who do they play going forward? They got Mississippi Valley State this week. The week after that, they play Central Arkansas. Going to be a good game. The week after that, they play UT Chattanooga. The week after that, they play Southern Utah. I mean, they got some good games on their schedule, and I'm really excited to watch the rest of Tarleton State's schedule going forward this season because I want to see what they're able to do. I want to see what they look like. But very convincing that the UAC is on the rise, man. On the rise, ready for their rightful respect, and we will see what they're able to do the rest of the season. But I'm very convinced and confident in the UAC now. With seeing some of the things they've been able to do early on in the season. Now, obviously, Austin Peay had a down year last year, but I think historically when they were in the OVC conference, I think they were a pretty formidable team. They usually were in the conversation, so we'll see what Austin Peay is able to do. Southern Utah is another team I got my eyes on. Abilene Christian is also another school that should be in everybody's discussions, but some of those teams in that UAC conference, man, they're coming and they're ready for the national discussion. So you guys let me know in the comments what you think about the UAC conference. What do you think they'll be able to do this year? In particular, what do you think Tarleton will be able to do this year? Do you put them in full blown, they are a national championship contender, or do you think they're on the cusp and they're right there? Maybe you can make it over the hump. You want to see more from them? Let me know in the comments down below and I will move on. Okay. I wanted to close out my video today talking about Sacramento State's $4 million roster. Now, I did not know this was the amount of money that Sacramento State had put in their roster, but my goodness, $4 million? Woo! This is from Jake Gadden of CBS Sacramento. He says, from a $4 million player budget, in quotes, NIL and revenue sharing, to Marion's $750,000 base salary to a $2.7 million staff pool, Sacramento State leads the FCS in all 3 categories. So they lead the FCS in their coach's base salary, they lead the FCS in their staff pool, and they lead the FCS in the amount of money spent on their budget, which is going to become a very, very loud discussion. Maybe not this week after South Dakota State. They're one of the better teams in the FCS. Maybe it doesn't have to get loud for them after this week. Sorry, I got these white lines on my lips and I can't stand it. Maybe the conversation doesn't get loud after this week, after the South Dakota State game, but I think it will for sure get loud if things continue to look bad for Sac State. I mean, the amount of money you spend on your roster, you would think you should at least be an upper tier Big Sky opponent, especially if you're considering going to FBS, especially if you want to go to the next level. I mean, things need to look better, and they need to get better fast for Sac State if they don't want things to get very loud on the outside. I mean, things are already loud because of what they've done throughout this offseason, but I mean, it's going to get much more loud. The report, which is very good timing from, I think it was the Sacramento State, it was Sacramento State something. I think I have it pulled up right here. It was some Sacramento news outlet that dropped a story. The San Francisco Chronicle dropped a story talking about the roster of Sac State. And they dropped it the morning of the South Dakota State game, which is amazing timing from the San Francisco Chronicle. But on Sac State's standpoint, it's like, wow, they just made it known that we have a $4 million roster. We should be good. I mean, that is the number one thing in the country. In all of FCS, you got the most expensive roster. Another quote from Jake Gadden. Sac State, and I think this is ultimately a quote from the story, but I saw it online. I did read the story myself, but I saw this quote from Jake Gadden, so I'm quoting him, but I think it's actually out of the San Francisco Chronicle. Sacramento State is committed to a floor of $2.5 million to $3 million in revenue shared funds to be distributed to athletes directly per oar. So I think that's at Sacramento State and all athletics. I don't think that's just football players. Who added that figure remains fluid and could grow in accordance with increased ticket sales, corporate sponsorships, and the like. So basically, Sacramento State, and some of the pieces of this story were basically Dr. Luke Wood talking about how when he became the president at Sacramento State, one of the things he wanted to do is he noticed because he used to be vice president at South Dakota or San Diego State, and he noticed how when they had their March Madness run, when their football team was doing good, he watched the attendance numbers jump up. Like he watched how well that did for their attendance, and ultimately how good it was for the university. Dr. Luke Wood mentioned that was his number one plan when he first got to Sacramento State as the president, is he wanted to champion athletics and really build around athletics in order to build the university. He sees athletics as the number one builder of a university. He sees how much it can do for a university. So that's why he's been so invested in the athletics at Sacramento State. His words, not mine, just going off what I read him say. With that in mind, that shows you why they've been doing all the looking to do the stadium renovations. Maybe they're not going to do stadium renovation now. Maybe they're going to be playing somewhere else. But the influx of money coming into the university, the committed donors who want to see them go to the FBS. I mean, all of this is in a move to try to get more attendance, more people coming to the Sacramento State, more people interested in Cal State Sacramento. With that being said, though, we got to see the results. We need to see the results. You got the most expensive roster in FCS football. There is no reason why that roster should be only putting up 3 points in a season opener. I don't care what you've done. You spent $4 million on this roster. I need to see a $4 million roster on Saturdays. And I know I'm being kind of harsh. Say what you want. I mean, these guys are getting paid a ton of money. If you want to treat these guys like professional athletes, they are not professional athletes. But if you want to pay and treat them like professional athletes with the way they're getting treated, there has to be some accountability. Now, whether that accountability falls on the desk of Brennan Marion, whether that accountability falls on the desk of Dr. Luke Wood, I think first you have to look at Coach Brennan Marion. I think next you got to look at Coach Dr. Luke Wood. I think everybody involved. There's a picking order, obviously, but people have to be held accountable. And currently, we aren't seeing $4 million worth of good football from Sacramento State right now. It's only one game. I want to reserve judgment until we see more games, but that was not a $4 million offense that I saw, or however much money you've put into that offense. That offense that we saw on Saturday was not a $4 million offense. So where is that going to come from? When are we going to see that? How can we expect to see the things change for you? Great story by the San Francisco Chronicle. Loved reading it. Gave us maybe a little bit too much insight into what's going on in Sac State. Maybe Dr. Luke Wood didn't want that to come out right as they were about to play South Dakota State. The conversation is going to become and going to stay loud until we see some success from Sacramento State or until we see them leave the subdivision. One or the other. I think people don't care either. I think people would rather see them leave the subdivision than see Sacramento State be successful. But obviously, I want the best for the Big Sky Conference. I want the best for everybody, honestly. So I would love to see Sac State be successful. You guys let me know what you guys think about Sacramento State having a $4 million roster. Let me know in the comments what you think about that, and we will move on. Okay, that is going to conclude my video for this week. I want to thank you guys for tapping into the channel. Be on the lookout this Thursday for my preview show. We will be previewing Montana Central Washington. We'll be previewing Montana State, Sacramento State, or South Dakota State, the big game of the week, Montana South Dakota State. I cannot wait for that game. Going to be played in Bozeman. I'm sure the Skyline crew will be there. I will obviously be in Missoula. Come check us out at the Tailgate Show. Me, Ace, Sour Wine, Denny Bedard. Come check us out. It's going to be an amazing, amazing Saturday. I cannot wait to see everybody in Missoula for the Grizzlies home opener, man. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a great weekend. College football is in full swing. I do have breakdowns coming. I don't know if they will have already dropped when I drop this video, but I was out of town this weekend, so I didn't get to record on Sunday. I did watch all the games while I was away on Saturdays, but obviously I didn't get to talk about them. That's why Akem'S analysis is coming out a little later, as well as the breakdowns will be coming around a little later. Also be on the lookout, Mercer versus why am I going blank? Mercer versus UC Davis. I did get a breakdown on that game, so we're going to look at that a little bit. I wanted to look at it a little bit to see some thoughts about it, but I got more breakdowns coming this week. You guys let me know what you guys think about that. Leave me a comment down below. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys like this video. Let me know what you guys want me to talk about, any segments you guys want me to do, any game breakdowns you guys didn't see from me and want to see from me. Let me know in the comments down below. I will catch you guys next time. See you later.